Hey guys, happy Wednesday. Hanging out with my guy here. He's not as cute as a cat or a hamster, but he was the best I could do today. So last time we read, if you remember, Ellie and his dad, they walked/ran, right? Like 20-ish miles to Gleiwitz, and then they stayed there for a couple days, and then now they're on this train, and they're like moving all the prisoners farther away from the fighting, and so they've put them on this train. It's a roofless cattle car, 100 people per car, January, snowing, and then remember they stop the train and they like just throw out the dead people. They take off all their clothes and throw them out of the train and then keep going. And the very last part we read, there were some people, I think, like throwing bread into the car. Yeah. So they like, the train stops and then someone throws bread into the car, and like they all start fighting over it. And then Ellie was remembering a time when he saw a woman on a cruise ship like throwing coins to some kids, and they were like almost killing each other in the water to get the coins. Okay, so basically, like right where we're starting today on 101, this is at the top of 101, he's describing what happens when these people throw bread into their train car. So we're gonna read from there to like midway through 107. All right, here we go. In the wagon where the bread had landed, a battle had ensued. Men were hurling themselves against each other, trampling, tearing at, and mauling each other. Beasts of prey unleashed, animal hate in their eyes. An extraordinary vitality possessed them, sharpening their teeth and nails. A crowd of workmen and curious passers-by had formed all along the train. They had undoubtedly never seen a train with this kind of cargo. Soon pieces of bread were falling into the wagon from all sides, and the spectators observed these emaciated creatures ready to kill for a crust of bread. A piece fell into our wagon. I decided not to move. Anyway, I knew that I would not be strong enough to fight off dozens of violent men. I saw not far from me an old man dragging himself on all fours. He had just detached himself from the struggling mob. He was holding one hand to his heart. At first I thought he had received a blow to his chest. Then I understood. He was hiding a piece of bread under his shirt. With lightning speed, he pulled it out and put it into his mouth. His eyes lit up. A smile, like a grimace, illuminated his ashen face and was immediately extinguished. A shadow had lain down beside him, and this shadow threw itself over him. Stunned by the blows, the old man was crying. "Mir, my little Mir, don't you recognize me? You're killing your father. I have bread for you too. He collapsed, but his fist was still clutching a small crust. He wanted to raise it to his mouth, but the other threw himself on him. The old man mumbled something, groaned, and died. Nobody cared. His son searched him, took the crust of bread, and began to devour it. He didn't get far. 2 men had been watching him. They jumped him. Others joined in. When they withdrew, there were 2 dead bodies next to me, the father and the son. I was 16. In our wagon there was a friend of my father's, Mir Katz. He had worked as a gardener in Buna, and from time to time had brought us some green vegetables. Less undernourished than the rest of us, detention had been easier on him. Because he was stronger than most of us, he'd been put in charge of our wagon. On the 3rd night of our journey, I woke up with a start when I felt 2 hands on my throat, trying to strangle me. I barely had time to call out, "Father." Just that one word. I was suffocating, but my father had awakened and grabbed my aggressor. Too weak to overwhelm him, he thought of calling Mir Katz. Come quickly, someone is strangling my son." In a few moments, I was freed. I never did find out why this stranger had wanted to strangle me. But days later, Mir Katz told my father, "Shlomo, I am getting weak. My strength is gone. I won't make it." "Don't give in," my father tried to encourage him. "You must resist. Don't lose faith in yourself." But Mir Katz only groaned in response. "I can't go on, Shlomo. I can't help it. I can't go on." My father took his arm, and Mir Katz, the strong one, the sturdiest of us all, began to cry. His son had been taken from him during the first selection, but only now was he crying for him. Only now did he fall apart. He could not go on. He had reached the end. Top of 103. On the last day of our journey, a terrible wind began to blow, and the snow kept falling. We sensed that the end was near, the real end. We could not hold out long in this glacial wind, this storm. Somebody got up and yelled, "We must not remain sitting. We shall freeze to death. Let's get up and move. We all got up. We all pulled our soaked blankets tighter around our shoulders, and we tried to take a few steps to shuffle back and forth in place. Suddenly a cry rose in the wagon, the cry of a wounded animal. Someone had just died. Others, close to death, imitated his cry, and their cries seemed to come from beyond the grave. Soon everybody was crying, groaning, moaning, cries of distress hurled into the wind and the snow. The lament spread from wagon to wagon. It was contagious. Now hundreds of cries arose at once, the death rattle of an entire convoy with the end approaching. All boundaries had been crossed. Nobody had any strength left, and the night seemed endless. Meerkats was moaning. Why don't they just shoot us now? That same night we reached our destination. It was late. The guards came to unload us. The dead were left in the wagons. Only those who could stand could leave. Meerkats remained on the train. The last day had been the most lethal. We had been 100 or so in this wagon. 12 of us left it. Among them, my father and myself. We had arrived in Buchenwald. Buchenwald's in Germany. It's a camp in Germany. Tomorrow I'll have a map ready, and I'll show you where it is on the map. We're going to keep going. 104. At the entrance to the camp, SS officers were waiting for us. We were counted. Then we were directed to the Appelplatz. The orders were given over the loudspeakers. Form ranks of fives, groups of 100, 5 steps forward. I tightened my grip on my father's hand, the old familiar fear, not to lose him. Very close to us stood the tall chimney of the crematorium's furnace. It no longer impressed us, it barely drew our attention. A veteran of Buchenwald told us that we would be taking a shower and afterward be sent to different blocks. The idea of a hot shower fascinated me. My father didn't say a word. He was breathing heavily beside me. Father, I said, just another moment. Soon we'll be able to lie down. You'll be able to rest. He didn't answer. I myself was so weary that his silence left me indifferent. My only wish was to take the shower as soon as possible and lie down on a cot. Only it wasn't easy to reach the showers. Hundreds of prisoners crowded the area. The guards seemed unable to restore order. They were lashing out left and right to no avail. Some prisoners who didn't have the strength to jostle or even to stand sat down in the snow. My father wanted to do the same. He was moaning. I can't anymore. It's over. I shall die right here. He dragged me toward a pile of snow from which protruded human shapes, torn blankets. Leave me, he said. I can't go on anymore. Have pity on me. I'll wait here until we can go into the showers. You'll come and get me. I could have screamed in anger. To have lived and endured so much, wasn't going to let my father die now that we would be able to take a good hot shower and lie down. Father, I howled. Father, get up right now. You will kill yourself. And I grabbed his arm. He continued to moan. Don't yell, my son. Have pity on your old father. Let me rest here a little. I beg of you. I'm so tired. No more strength. He became childlike, weak, frightened, vulnerable. Father, I said, you cannot stay here. I pointed to the corpses around him. They too had wanted to rest here. I see, my son, I do see them. Let them sleep. They haven't closed an eye for so long. They're exhausted. His voice was tender. I howled into the wind. They're dead. They will never wake up. Never. Do you understand? This discussion continued for some time. I knew that I was no longer arguing with him, but with death itself, with death that he'd already chosen. The sirens began to wail, alert. The lights went out in the entire camp. The guards chased us toward the blocks. In a flash, there was no one left outside. We were only too glad not to have to stay outside any longer in the freezing wind. We let ourselves sink into the floor. The cauldrons at the entrance found no takers. There were several tiers of bunks. To sleep was all that mattered. When I woke up, it was daylight. That is when I remembered that I had a father. During the alert, I had followed the mob, not taken care of him. I knew he was running out of strength, close to death, and yet I'd abandoned him. I went to look for him, yet at the same time a thought crept into my mind. If only I didn't find him. If only I were relieved of this responsibility, I could use all my strength to fight for my own survival, to take care only of myself. Instantly, I felt ashamed of myself forever. I walked for hours without finding him. Then I came to a block where they were distributing black coffee. People stood in line, quarreled. A plaintive voice came from behind me. Eliezer, my son, bring me a little coffee. I ran toward him. Father, I've been looking for you for so long. Where were you? Did you sleep? How are you feeling? You seemed to be burning with fever. I fought my way to the coffee cauldron like a wild beast, and I succeeded in bringing back a cup. I took one gulp. The rest was for him. I shall never forget the gratitude that shone in his eyes when he swallowed this beverage, the gratitude of a wounded animal. With these few mouthfuls of hot water, I'd probably given him more satisfaction than during my entire childhood. He was lying on the boards, ashen, his lips pale and dry, shivering. I couldn't stay with him any longer. We'd been ordered to go outside to allow for cleaning of the blocks. Only the sick could remain inside. We stayed outside for 5 hours. We were given soup. When they allowed us to return to the blocks, I rushed toward my father. Did you eat? No. Why? They didn't give us anything. They said that we were sick, that we would die soon, and that it would be a waste of food. I can't go on. I gave him what was left of my soup, but my heart was heavy. I was aware that I was doing it grudgingly. Just like Rabbi Elihu's son, I had not passed the test. All right, that's all we're reading for today. Miss you guys. Hope to see you soon. Let me know if you need help with anything. Bye.